The viewing screens in Outpost Vanguard hummed with soft blue light as Commander Jake Morrison watched another Galactic Council broadcast. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but he didn't notice. The Council was debating humanity again, just like they had been for the past 300 years. The species from Earth remained silent. The crystal-like alien speaker announced to the assembled delegates, "We have sent 14,000 diplomatic messages. We have offered trade routes, technology exchanges, and cultural partnerships. They downloaded our information packets 3 centuries ago and have not responded since." Jake leaned back in his chair and smiled. The other officers on the monitoring station gathered around him, watching the broadcast with the same quiet amusement. They knew something the galaxy didn't. Humanity hadn't gone silent because they were afraid. They had gone silent because they were busy. The year was 2847. 300 years had passed since the Galactic Council first made contact with Earth. Jake remembered learning about it in school. The Council had arrived in Earth's orbit with ships that looked like floating cities. They came in peace, they said. They wanted to welcome humanity into the galactic community. Earth's leaders at the time were stunned. The Council represented 47 different species across 12,000 star systems. They had technology that seemed like magic, faster than light travel, energy weapons, medical knowledge that could cure any disease, construction methods that could build entire cities in days. The Council made humanity an offer. "Join us," they said. "Learn from us. Grow with us. All we ask is that you participate in galactic trade and share your own discoveries when you have them." It seemed too good to be true. Earth's governments accepted the initial contact. They downloaded everything the Council offered: terabytes of scientific data, engineering blueprints, star charts, history files, tactical information, and cultural databases. The Council's representatives smiled and prepared for formal membership ceremonies. Then humanity said thank you and closed every communication channel. The galaxy was confused. Some species thought humans were ungrateful. Others believed humanity had looked at the vastness of space and decided they were too small to matter. The most popular theory was that humans had tried to use the advanced technology too quickly and had accidentally destroyed themselves. But Jake knew the truth. Humanity had taken one look at everything the Council offered and realized they needed time. Time to study, time to learn, time to build, and time to prepare. The galaxy was dangerous, and showing up unprepared would be worse than not showing up at all. "Sir, we're getting another distress signal from the Council border systems," Lieutenant Amy Chen said from her station. "The Devourers just took the Kelros system. That's the 20th civilization they've consumed this year." Jake's smile faded. The Devourers were the reason Outpost Vanguard existed. 5 years ago, human deep space sensors had detected something wrong at the galaxy's edge. Ships were disappearing. Entire star systems were going dark. At first, the Council thought it was a natural phenomenon, maybe a cluster of black holes or a dangerous nebula. Then the survivors started arriving at Council space. They brought stories of machines, endless waves of intelligent ships that consumed everything in their path. They didn't negotiate. They didn't communicate. They just destroyed and moved on, using the materials from conquered systems to build more of themselves. The Council called them the Devourers. They sent fleets to investigate. Those fleets never came back. More civilizations fell. The machine intelligence grew stronger with every system it consumed. Now 20 species had been completely wiped out, and the Devourers were pushing deeper into Council territory. Jake watched the broadcast as the Council debated their options. They were losing badly. Every engagement ended in retreat. Every defensive line collapsed within weeks. The machines adapted to every tactic, learned from every battle, and came back stronger. "They're going to send another message to Earth," Lieutenant Ben Palmer said. "I can see it in their debate patterns. They're desperate." "Let them," Jake replied. "Command will decide if we respond." But Jake already knew what Earth's answer would be. He had been part of the discussions during his last visit home. Humanity had been watching the Devourer situation closely. They had analyzed every battle, studied every tactical report, and run thousands of simulations. The conclusion was clear. The galaxy couldn't win this fight alone. Earth's orbital space was nothing like it had been 3 centuries ago. Where there had once been a few space stations and satellite networks, there were now massive shipyards, defensive platforms, and fleet anchorages. Humanity had taken the Council's technology and improved it. They had combined it with their own methods and created something new. The human fleet waited in Earth's shadow, 300 warships larger than anything the Council had ever built. Thousands of smaller attack craft. Weapons systems that bent the rules of physics, defensive shields that could shrug off almost anything. And most importantly, human crews trained for war in ways the peaceful Council species never imagined. Jake had toured the flagship Resolution before being assigned to Outpost Vanguard. He had walked through corridors that could house a small city. He had seen the weapons batteries, the fighter bays, the quantum foam generators that let human ships tear holes in space itself. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Commander, we have incoming from Earth Command," Amy said. "Priority channel." Jake accepted the transmission. Admiral Sam Carter's face appeared on his screen. The Admiral looked tired but determined. "Morrison, the Council is about to send their final distress call. We've monitored the Devourer advance. They have maybe 18 months before their core systems are threatened." "Are we going to answer, sir?" Jake asked. "That depends on the Council," Carter replied. "If they ask us as equals, if they truly need us, then yes. We're not going to let the galaxy burn, but we're not going to rush in and save people who think we're primitives either. We'll wait for the right moment." The transmission ended. Jake turned back to the viewing screens. The Council debate continued. They argued about resource allocation, defensive positions, and evacuation plans. They were preparing to lose slowly instead of trying to win. Then something changed. A single delegate stood up. Jake recognized her from the intelligence files. Ambassador Kira Vell, from a species that had spent centuries studying Earth's old radio broadcasts. She was one of the few aliens who seemed to actually understand humanity. "Send them a message," Kira said to the Council. "Not a diplomatic request. Not a trade offer. Just 3 words, we need you." The Council chamber erupted in debate. Some delegates laughed. Others shouted that it was pointless. But Jake saw something in Kira's expression. She understood. She knew humanity had been listening all along. "It's happening," he said quietly to his crew. "Get ready. The age of silence is almost over." In Earth orbit, Admiral Carter received the same broadcasts. He stood on the bridge of the Resolution and looked at his officers. 300 years of preparation. 300 years of building, training, and waiting. Now the moment had arrived. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered. "When the Council asks, we answer. And we answer with everything we have." The Unity Nexus station hung in space like a small moon. It was the heart of the Galactic Council, home to thousands of diplomats, officials, and representatives from 47 species. Today, the Grand Chamber was filled to capacity. Every delegate had come to hear what might be the Council's final emergency session. Speaker Thalen Vross stood at the central podium. His crystalline body refracted the chamber's light into rainbow patterns across the walls. He had led the Council for 70 years and had never seen a crisis like this. His voice carried the weight of desperation when he spoke. "The Devourers have taken the Kelros system," Thalen announced. 20 civilizations have now fallen to the machine intelligence. Our projections show that at their current rate of advance, they will reach the core systems within 18 months. Every fleet we send is destroyed. Every defensive line collapses. The chamber fell silent. Delegates from species who had lost their homeworlds wept quietly. Others stared at the holographic displays showing the Devourers' relentless advance. Red markers spread across the star map like a disease. "We must evacuate the border regions," one delegate suggested. "Save who we can." "We need to combine all our fleets into one massive force," another argued. "Meet them in one decisive battle." "That strategy has failed 3 times already," a third delegate countered. "The machines adapt. They learn from every engagement. Our combined fleet would last a week at most." Ambassador Kira Vell listened to the debate from her seat in the lower chamber. She represented a small species called the Valaxi, traders and scholars who had made understanding other cultures their specialty. For decades, Kira had studied humanity's old broadcasts, the radio and television signals that had leaked into space before Earth went silent. She had learned their languages, watched their entertainment, studied their history. Humans were violent by galactic standards. They had fought countless wars among themselves. But they were also creative, adaptable, and stubborn. They never gave up even when defeat seemed certain. Kira stood up and requested permission to speak. Several delegates groaned. The Valaxi were not a powerful species. They had no great fleets or advanced weapons. Most council members considered them irrelevant to military discussions. Speaker Vross, Kira said clearly, I propose we send one final message to Earth. The chamber erupted in laughter. Some delegates made rude gestures. Others simply shook their heads in disbelief. The silent world? One delegate shouted. They've ignored us for 300 years. Why would they answer now? Because we've never truly asked them, Kira replied. We've sent diplomatic protocols, trade offers, and formal invitations. We've never just asked for help. This is ridiculous, another delegate said. Even if they did respond, what could they offer? They're a single system species. We have 47 civilizations and we're losing. How could humanity possibly make a difference? Kira pulled up data on her personal display. Before Earth went silent, they downloaded every piece of information we offered. Engineering data, scientific principles, tactical doctrines, everything. They spent 300 years studying it. What if they've been preparing? Preparing for what? Speaker Thalen asked gently. Ambassador Vel, I understand your hope, but humanity showed no interest in joining us. They are likely extinct or have reverted to primitive ways. Even if they survived, they would be centuries behind our technology. Then what do we lose by asking? Kira challenged. One message. Not a formal diplomatic request with protocols and procedures, just a simple cry for help. If they ignore it, we're no worse off than we are now. The chamber fell quiet. Delegates looked at each other. Some seemed thoughtful. Others remained skeptical. Speaker Thalen considered the proposal carefully. Very well, he finally said. We will send one message to Earth. Keep it simple, as Ambassador Vel suggests. If there is anyone listening, perhaps simplicity will reach them where formality failed. 3 hours later, Kira stood in the communications center and watched as technicians prepared the broadcast. They kept it short, broadcasting on all frequencies toward the Sol system where Earth was located. People of Earth, this is the Galactic Council. We are dying. Our civilizations are falling to an enemy we cannot defeat. If you can hear this, we need you. Please, if there is anyone listening, we need your help. The message was transmitted and then repeated every hour. Kira stayed in the communications center watching the screens, hoping for any sign of response. Hours passed. Nothing came back except silence. On Earth, Commander Lisa Hayes sat in the Defense Command Center deep beneath the Rockies. The message from the Council played on her screens. She listened to it 3 times, then forwarded it to Fleet Command with a priority flag. Within the hour, she was in a conference room with Admiral Sam Carter and a dozen other high-ranking officers. The message played for them as well. 300 years, Admiral Carter said quietly. We've been watching them struggle for months. We knew this was coming. Some of our people say we should stay out of it, General Chris Morgan said. The Council never forced us to join. We don't owe them anything. They gave us everything, Commander Hayes countered. All that technology, all that knowledge. They asked for nothing in return. How can we not respond? Because responding means revealing ourselves, another officer argued. Once they know what we've built, what we're capable of, everything changes. We lose our isolation, our safety. Admiral Carter stood and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the lights of the city above them. Billions of humans lived on Earth and her colonies, unaware of the debate happening right now. The decision made here would affect all of them. We didn't stay silent because we were afraid, Carter said. We stayed silent because we weren't ready. We needed time to understand what the galaxy offered. Time to build our own path. Now the question is, are we ready now? The room fell silent. Every officer knew what readiness meant. The fleet was prepared. The weapons worked. The crews were trained. Humanity had become something the galaxy had never seen before. I say we're ready, Commander Hayes said. We've been ready for 5 years. We've watched 20 civilizations fall while we debated and prepared. If we wait any longer, there won't be a galaxy left to save. Admiral Carter nodded slowly. Then we answer. But not with a message. We answer with the fleet. The orders went out within minutes. All across Earth's orbital space, ships began powering up their systems. Crews reported to their stations. Fighter pilots ran pre-flight checks. Marines loaded ammunition and charged their weapons. The Resolution, humanity's flagship, blazed with light as its quantum foam generators came online. Admiral Carter took his position on the bridge and looked at his crew. They were young, most of them born long after the Council's first contact, but they had trained their entire lives for this moment. Set course for the Epsilon barrier, Carter ordered. That's where the Council is making their stand. That's where we'll make ours. Sir, his tactical officer said, travel time at maximum conventional speed will be 3 weeks. We're not using conventional speed, Carter replied. He turned to his navigation officer. Lieutenant, engage the rift drive. We're going to arrive in style. Back at Unity Nexus, Ambassador Kira Vell had given up hope of an immediate response. She was leaving the communications center when alarms started blaring throughout the station. Emergency channels lit up with panicked transmissions from the Epsilon barrier. Something's happening at the front lines, a technician shouted. Space is tearing open. Kira ran back to the screens. She watched in disbelief as sensor data poured in from the battle zone. Reality itself was splitting apart, and through the tear in space, ships were emerging. Human ships, hundreds of them. Her datapad chimed with an incoming message. It was text only, but it came from the Sol system. Ambassador Vell, this is Admiral Sam Carter of the Human Defense Fleet. We heard you. We're coming. Hold on. Kira felt tears running down her face. She had been right. Humanity had been listening all along, and now they were answering in the only way that mattered. Admiral Corin Dax stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched his fleet die. The Epsilon barrier was supposed to be humanity's last great defensive line, a wall of 6,000 ships from 20 different species. Now it was breaking apart under the relentless assault of the Devourers. The enemy machines moved through space like a swarm of metal locusts. They didn't organize in neat formations like civilized species. They flowed and shifted, adapting to every defensive position, exploiting every weakness. Dax had been fighting them for 6 months and still didn't understand how they thought. We've lost the left flank, his tactical officer reported. 300 ships destroyed in the last hour. The Devourers are pushing through toward the civilian evacuation routes. Dax felt his foreheart sink. He was a Korthan, a warrior species that had never known defeat until now. His people had fought wars for 10,000 years and always won. The Devourers didn't care about warrior pride or ancient traditions. They just killed and consumed. Order the reserve fleet to cover the evacuation, Dax commanded. We'll buy them as much time as we can. His officers moved to carry out the order, but Dax knew it wouldn't be enough. They could delay the machines for a few hours at most. Then the Devourers would break through and millions of civilians would die. He was preparing to order a general retreat when something impossible happened. Space tore open. At first, Dax thought it was a Devourer weapon, some new horror they had developed. But the energy signature was completely different. A massive rift appeared in the fabric of reality, stretching thousands of kilometers across the battlefield. It looked like someone had taken a knife to the universe itself. Through the tear came ships. Human ships. Dax had seen the old records from humanity's first contact. Their vessels had been primitive things, barely capable of leaving their own star system. These ships were nothing like those old designs. They were massive, each one larger than his own flagship. Their hulls were dark and angular, covered in weapons systems he didn't recognize. 300 capital ships emerged from the rift, followed by thousands of smaller craft. They moved with perfect coordination, spreading across the battlefield in a formation that seemed to anticipate exactly where they were needed most. What are those things? His tactical officer whispered. Humans, Dax replied, barely believing his own words. The silent world has finally answered. The human flagship broke formation and moved toward Dax's position. A communication channel opened. The face that appeared on the screen was alien to Dax, but he could read the determination in the human's expression. Admiral Dax, I'm Admiral Sam Carter of the Human Defense Fleet. Sorry we're late. Where do you need us? Dax found himself smiling for the first time in months. Everywhere, Admiral Carter. We need you everywhere. The battle transformed in moments. Captain Nina Brooks sat in the cockpit of her fighter, call sign Valkyrie 7, and watched her tactical display light up with targets. She led a squadron of 30 fighters, and their mission was simple. Break the Devourer formation surrounding the Council's left flank. All wings, this is Valkyrie 7, Nina transmitted. We're going in hot. Remember your training. These machines adapt, so don't use the same attack pattern twice. Keep moving, stay unpredictable, and watch each other's backs. Her squadron acknowledged and dove into the battle. Nina's fighter moved differently than anything the Council species flew. It didn't just accelerate in straight lines. It danced, spinning and weaving through space in patterns that seemed impossible. The quantum foam drive let her shift direction without the normal physics restrictions that limited other ships. The Devourers fired at her position, but she was already somewhere else. Their targeting systems couldn't predict her movements because her movements weren't following predictable physics. She fired a burst from her main weapon, a directed energy beam that bent space around it. The beam curved through the battlefield and struck 3 Devourer ships in a single shot. "These weapons are incredible," Lieutenant Pete Harris shouted over the squadron channel. He was new to combat, fresh from training but flying like a veteran. "They can't adapt fast enough." Nina smiled inside her helmet. Humanity had spent 300 years studying galactic technology and warfare. They had learned from every species' successes and failures. Then they had developed something new, combining the best of galactic knowledge with human creativity and aggressive tactics. The Devourer formation began to collapse. The machines tried to adapt, shifting their positions and changing their attack patterns. But the human fighters were faster. Every time the Devourers learned one tactic, the humans switched to something different. On the capital ship line, the Resolution and her sister ships engaged the main Devourer fleet. Admiral Carter watched his tactical display with satisfaction. The Council had been fighting these machines for months and losing. Humanity had been studying those battles for just as long. "Target their command nodes," Carter ordered. "The Devourers are networked. If we disrupt their communication, they become less coordinated." The human weapons were designed specifically for this enemy, missiles that phased through shields using quantum foam technology, energy weapons that disrupted electronic systems, kinetic rounds that struck with enough force to shatter the strongest armor. Every weapon had been developed with the Devourers in mind. The Council fleet watched in amazement as the tide of battle turned. Ships that had been retreating hours ago now held their positions. The Devourers, which had seemed unstoppable, were being pushed back. Admiral Dax opened a channel to every ship in his fleet. "All vessels, advance in coordination with the human fleet. We're not retreating anymore. We're winning." The combined fleet pressed forward. Human ships led the charge, their weapons tearing holes in the Devourer formations. Council ships followed, their crews inspired by the sight of the machines finally falling back. Lieutenant Commander Tony Reed coordinated the tactical data from his station on the Resolution. He watched the battle unfold across dozens of screens, tracking thousands of ships and weapons. The Council species fought bravely, but they had been on the defensive for so long they had forgotten how to attack. "Admiral, we're receiving tactical data from the Council fleet," Tony reported. "They're asking for our formation protocols and attack patterns." "Send them everything," Carter replied. "We're not here to show off. We're here to win. If sharing our methods helps them fight better, then share." The battle lasted 4 hours. When it finally ended, the Epsilon barrier still stood. 500 Devourer ships had been destroyed and the rest had retreated. It was the first major victory the Council had achieved since the war began. Nina brought her fighter back to the Resolution and climbed out of the cockpit. Her hands were shaking from adrenaline, but she was grinning. Around her, other pilots were celebrating, embracing each other and shouting in joy. "We did it," Lieutenant Pete Harris said, still not quite believing it. "We actually beat them." "We beat one fleet," Nina corrected him. "There are hundreds more out there. This is just the beginning." On the bridge, Admiral Carter accepted a transmission from Admiral Dax. The alien commander looked exhausted but hopeful. "I don't know what to say," Dax admitted. "You saved us. You saved millions of lives today." "Don't thank us yet," Carter replied. "This was one battle. We have a long war ahead of us. But I'll tell you this. The galaxy doesn't have to fight alone anymore. Humanity stands with you now." "Why?" Dax asked quietly. "You stayed silent for 3 centuries. You owed us nothing. Why answer now?" Carter thought about that question. He thought about Earth, about the fleet they had built, about the 300 years of preparation. He thought about the Council's message, "We need you." "Because you asked," Carter finally said, "not as diplomats or politicians, but as people who needed help. And because the galaxy gave us the knowledge to become strong enough to answer, it's time we paid that gift forward." The transmission ended. Carter looked at his crew, saw their exhausted but triumphant faces. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Now the real work began. "Helm, set course to rendezvous with the main Council fleet," Carter ordered. "Communications, send a message to Earth. Tell them the Epsilon barrier holds. Tell them we're just getting started. As the resolution turned toward the next battle, a new message went out across all Council frequencies. It came from Unity Nexus from Speaker Thalen Vross himself. To all Council species, hope has arrived. The humans have answered our call. The silent world speaks, and it speaks with thunder. We are no longer alone in this fight. All across the galaxy, people heard that message and dared to hope again. 3 days after the battle at Epsilon Barrier, Ambassador Kira Vell stood in the docking bay of the Resolution and tried to control her nervousness. She was the first Council representative to officially visit a human ship, and she had no idea what to expect. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Captain Ryan Foster stood on the other side, wearing a human military uniform that was simple and functional. He smiled and extended his hand in the human greeting gesture Kira had studied from old broadcasts. "Ambassador Vell, welcome aboard," Ryan said. "I'm your liaison during this visit." The Admiral sends his apologies. He's coordinating operations across 3 systems right now. Kira took his hand carefully. Human touch was warmer than she expected. "I understand. Thank you for allowing me to visit. My people have spent centuries studying yours from afar. It's strange to finally meet you in person." Ryan led her through the ship's corridors. Kira tried to take in everything at once. The Resolution was enormous, with hallways wide enough to drive vehicles through. Human crew members passed by, nodding politely to her but not stopping to stare. They seemed disciplined and focused. The ship itself was different from Council vessels. Everything had a purpose. There were no decorative elements, no artistic flourishes. Every surface, every panel, every system was designed for efficiency and function. It reminded Kira of a weapon, beautiful in its deadly simplicity. "Your ship is impressive," Kira said, "but I have to ask the question everyone in the Council wants answered. How did you build this? 300 years ago, humanity barely had space stations. Now you have a fleet that surpasses anything we've ever seen." Ryan stopped at a viewing window. Outside, Earth hung in space, blue and green and beautiful. Around it, hundreds of ships moved in precise patterns, along with massive orbital stations and construction yards. "Your Council gave us a gift," Ryan said quietly. "Knowledge, technology, scientific principles that would have taken us thousands of years to discover on our own. You shared it freely and asked for nothing in return." "But you didn't join us," Kira pointed out. "You went silent." "Because we weren't ready," Ryan replied. "Think about it from our perspective. We were a single-planet species, barely unified, still fighting wars among ourselves. Suddenly we're given access to technology from 47 advanced civilizations. We could have rushed out into the galaxy, tried to establish ourselves as equals before we truly understood what we were dealing with. Many species have done exactly that," Kira admitted. "It usually leads to disaster. So we made a different choice," Ryan continued. "We decided to take time, study everything you gave us, learn not just the technology but the principles behind it. Understand why it worked, not just how to use it." He turned to face her directly. "We also learned from your mistakes. We studied every Council species history. We saw how wars were fought, how conflicts developed, how peaceful civilizations responded to threats. And we realized something important." "What was that?" Kira asked. "That the galaxy wasn't ready for some of the paths that knowledge could lead to," Ryan said seriously. "Come with me. There's something you need to see." He led her deeper into the ship, through security checkpoints that scanned both of them multiple times. Eventually, they reached a laboratory filled with equipment Kira didn't recognize. Scientists worked quietly at various stations, monitoring displays and recording data. "This is our quantum foam research facility," Ryan explained. "The technology that lets our ships tear open space for instant travel." "Do you know what quantum foam is?" "The underlying fabric of reality," Kira replied. She had studied basic physics. "The smallest possible scale of space and time?" "Exactly. We learned how to manipulate it, how to tear it open temporarily to create portals between distant locations." Ryan's expression became grave. "But we also learned something else. If you manipulate quantum foam incorrectly, if you tear it too deeply or in the wrong way, you don't create a temporary portal. You create a permanent rupture, a hole in reality that consumes everything around it and can't be closed." Kira felt her blood run cold. "You discovered how to destroy space itself." "We discovered it accidentally 5 years after we started researching quantum foam," Ryan confirmed. "A test facility on one of Jupiter's moons. We lost 300 scientists when the rupture formed. It took us 2 years to figure out how to contain it, And another year to collapse it. That rupture could have consumed our entire solar system. He gestured to the equipment around them. We could have shared this technology with the galaxy. Imagine the possibilities. Instant travel between any 2 points. No need for slow-moving ships, but we also imagined what would happen if someone used it as a weapon. A permanent rupture deployed near an enemy world. An entire civilization erased from existence in seconds. So you stayed silent to protect us, Kira said softly. To protect the galaxy from knowledge that could destroy it. We stayed silent because we had to grow up first, Ryan said. We had to learn wisdom before we could offer power. The galaxy gave us knowledge freely, and we're grateful. But knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. So we took 3 centuries to find that wisdom. They continued the tour. Ryan showed her the medical facilities where human doctors had combined council medical knowledge with their own research to create treatments for diseases that affected multiple species. He showed her the engineering bays where human and alien technologies were being integrated. He showed her the training facilities where human crews practiced combat maneuvers over and over, until they became instinct. Why come now? Kira asked. Why break your silence for the devourer threat? Because we've been watching them for 5 years, Ryan replied. Since before the council even knew they existed. Our deep space monitoring stations detected the pattern of their advance. We analyzed every battle, studied every tactic. We realized the galaxy couldn't win this fight alone. He pulled up a holographic display showing the devourer advance. We ran 10,000 simulations. In every scenario where humanity didn't intervene, the galaxy fell within 2 years. In scenarios where we intervened early, we attracted the devourer's attention before we were ready to face them. The optimal intervention point was exactly when we arrived, when the council was desperate enough to accept our help, but strong enough to still fight alongside us. You calculated when to save us, Kira said, not sure how she felt about that. We calculated when we could save you most effectively, Ryan corrected. Ambassador, humanity isn't perfect. We're aggressive by your standards, violent even, but we're also strategic. We think long-term. We understand that sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when to act and when to wait. They reached the bridge, where Admiral Carter was coordinating fleet movements across multiple displays. He looked up as they entered and gave Kira a tired smile. Ambassador, I hope Captain Foster has been a good host, Carter said. He's been very enlightening, Kira replied. Admiral, my people are grateful for your help. But I have to ask, what does humanity want in return? Carter looked surprised. In return? You've saved countless lives. You've turned the tide of a war we were losing. Surely you want something. Territory? Resources? Political influence? Carter laughed, though it wasn't a cruel sound. Ambassador, we already have everything we need. Our solar system has enough resources to sustain us for millennia. We don't need territory because we're not interested in conquest. And political influence? He shook his head. We spent 3 centuries avoiding politics. Then why help us? Kira pressed. Because it's the right thing to do, Carter said simply. Because the galaxy gave us a gift and gifts should be repaid. Because we're strong enough to help. And standing by while people die is not who we want to be. He turned back to his displays. We're not saints, Ambassador. We have our own interests. We want allies, not subjects. We want trade partners, not dependencies. We want the galaxy to survive because a dead galaxy doesn't benefit anyone, including us. Kira spent 3 more days on the resolution. She watched human crews work with council officers, teaching them tactics and strategies. She saw Lieutenant Commander Tony Reed coordinate with alien tactical specialists, sharing data and methods freely. She watched Commander Elena Price lead mixed human and alien squadrons through training exercises. What impressed her most was how human crews treated their alien counterparts, not as inferiors or primitives, but as equals learning new skills. Humans had surpassed the council technologically, but they didn't lord it over them. They taught, they collaborated, they adapted. On her last day aboard, Ryan walked her back to the docking bay where her shuttle waited. What will you tell the council? He asked. The truth, Kira replied. That humanity grew up in silence. That you learned not just technology but wisdom. That you came back not to conquer but to stand with us. She paused. I'll also tell them to be grateful. The galaxy could have faced the devourers alone. Instead, we faced them together. We're grateful too, Ryan said, for the gift your council gave us 3 centuries ago, for the chance to repay that gift now, and for the future we'll build together. Kira's shuttle left the Resolution and headed back to Unity Nexus. Behind her, the human fleet continued its work, preparing for the battles to come. Commander Jake Morrison stared at the data streaming across his screens at Outpost Vanguard. His monitoring station had been tracking Devourer movements for weeks, and finally he had found what everyone was looking for. The source, the heart of the machine intelligence. "I've got it," Jake said to his crew. "The central nexus. It's exactly where our models predicted, at the Galactic Edge in Sector 947. Lieutenant Amy Chen pulled up the detailed scans. It's massive. A construct the size of a small moon, surrounded by defensive stations and millions of Devourer ships. "Send everything to Fleet Command," Jake ordered. "This is what we've been waiting for. If we can destroy that nexus, we can end this war." The data reached Admiral Carter on the Resolution within minutes. He studied the intelligence reports with his senior staff gathered around him. The nexus was the coordination center for all Devourer forces. Destroying it wouldn't eliminate every machine, but it would fragment them, turn them from a coordinated threat into scattered groups that could be hunted down over time. "It's heavily defended," Lieutenant Commander Tony Reed observed. "We'd need every ship we have plus full Council fleet support to even reach it. And we'd take massive casualties," Commander Elena Price added. "Maybe 50% losses or higher," Carter nodded slowly. He had known this moment would come. Every war had its critical battle, the moment when victory was possible but only at tremendous cost. He opened a channel to Unity Nexus, requesting an emergency meeting with the Council leadership. 3 hours later, the Council chamber was filled again. Speaker Thalen Vross presided with Admiral Dax, Ambassador Kira, and representatives from all major Council species present. Admiral Carter appeared via hologram, his image projected above the central platform. "We found the Devourer Central Nexus," Carter announced. "The intelligence is solid. If we strike there, we can end this war." The chamber erupted in excited discussion. After months of defeat and retreat, the possibility of victory seemed impossible to believe. "What's the plan?" Admiral Dax asked. "A full-scale assault," Carter replied. "Every combat-capable ship, human and Council, in one coordinated strike. We hit the Nexus with everything we have, destroy it, and break the Devourer network." "And the cost?" Speaker Thalen asked quietly. Carter didn't look away. "High. We could lose half our fleet. Tens of thousands of crew members. Maybe more." The chamber fell silent. Council members looked at each other. Some species had already lost their homeworlds. Others had seen their fleets decimated. The idea of gambling everything on one battle terrified them. "There must be another way," one delegate said. "We could maintain defensive positions." "Protect what remains. For how long?" Carter challenged. "The Devourers grow stronger with every system they consume. Every day we delay, they get more powerful. Eventually they'll overwhelm even our combined defenses." "But the casualties," another delegate protested. "We've already lost so many." "And you'll lose everything if you don't act," Carter said firmly. "I understand the fear. Believe me, I do. But this is the moment. This is the choice. Accept certain losses for a chance at victory, or accept certain defeat trying to avoid losses." Ambassador Kira stood. "May I speak?" She waited for Thalen's permission, then addressed the chamber. "For 300 years we wondered why humanity went silent. We thought they feared us or feared the galaxy. But I've walked their ships. I've talked to their people. I know the truth now." She looked around at the assembled delegates. They didn't fear the galaxy. They feared not being ready when the galaxy needed them. So they prepared. They spent 3 centuries turning themselves into exactly what we need now. They answered our call because they were finally ready to answer it. Kira's voice strengthened. "Now they're offering us a choice. Not commanding us, not forcing us, but offering. We can keep fearing the cost of victory, or we can pay it and live free. Admiral Carter is right. This is the moment. If we don't take it, there won't be another." The chamber erupted in debate. Species that had always counseled caution argued for defensive strategies. Warriors like Admiral Dax argued for the attack. Hours passed as the Council struggled with the decision. Finally, Speaker Thalen called for silence. "Admiral Carter, if we approve this assault, will humanity lead it?" "We'll fight beside you," Carter replied. "As equals. This isn't a human war or a Council war. It's our war. Every species that values freedom has a stake in this battle. We'll lead the attack because we have the most advanced weapons, But this victory will belong to all of us. Thalen looked around the chamber one final time. All in favor of the assault, signal now. One by one, species voted. Not all of them voted yes. Some still feared the cost. But enough agreed, and the assault was approved. The next 2 weeks were a flurry of preparation. Every ship capable of combat was gathered at the staging area. The Council fleet brought 4,000 ships. Humanity brought 300 of their massive warships and 2,000 smaller craft. Together, it was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Captain Nina Brooks ran pre-flight checks on Valkyrie 7 for the 20th time. Around her, thousands of other pilots did the same. The fighter bays were crowded with craft from dozens of species, human and alien pilots working side by side. Nervous, Lieutenant Pete Harris asked from his cockpit nearby. Terrified, Nina admitted. But ready, you? Same, but I keep thinking about what Admiral Carter said. This is the moment. Everything we trained for comes down to the next few hours. On the Resolution's bridge, Admiral Carter watched the fleet assemble. Commander Elena Price was coordinating the battle plan with Admiral Dax. Lieutenant Commander Tony Reed monitored intelligence feeds from Outpost Vanguard. Every system was green, every ship was ready. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Earth, the communications officer reported. It's from Earth Command. Personal message for you. Carter accepted it. General Chris Morgan appeared on his screen, speaking from the command center deep beneath Earth. Sam, everyone back home knows what you're about to do, Morgan said. Win or lose, we're proud of you. Bring our people home if you can. If you can't, make it count. The transmission ended. Carter felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders. Thousands of human lives depended on his decisions in the next hours. Millions of alien lives, too. The galaxy's future balanced on the edge of this battle. All ships, this is Admiral Carter. He transmitted across all frequencies. In a few minutes, we jump to the Nexus location. When we arrive, the Devourers will throw everything at us. They'll adapt to our tactics. They'll learn from our strategies. We have to win before they can fully adapt. He paused, choosing his words carefully. 300 years ago, the galaxy offered humanity a gift. Knowledge, technology, a path to the stars. Today we repay that gift, not with words or promises, but with action. Today we stand together. Today we end this threat. All ships prepare to jump. Space tore open in 1,000 places simultaneously. The combined fleet emerged at the Nexus location in perfect formation. The Devourer construct filled their view screens, a massive geometric structure surrounded by defensive stations and millions of machine ships. All wings engage, Carter ordered. The battle was chaos. Devourer ships swarmed toward the fleet in endless waves. Human and Council ships fired everything they had. Explosions lit up space like newborn stars. Fighters danced between capital ships, targeting enemy weak points. Nina led her squadron through the defensive perimeter. Enemy fire filled space around her, but she kept moving, never staying in one place long enough for the machines to target her effectively. Her wingmates followed her lead, human and alien pilots working together. We're breaking through, Pete shouted. The main fleet is advancing. On the Resolution, Carter coordinated the assault. Ships were falling on both sides. The casualty reports came in steadily, each one a knife in his heart. But the fleet kept pressing forward. Admiral, we've identified the Nexus core, Tony reported. It's deep inside the construct, shielded by multiple defensive layers. We need someone to get through those shields and deliver a warhead directly to the core, Carter said. Who's closest? Captain Ryan Foster, commanding a heavy assault ship, responded immediately. I can make that run, sir. If my ship has the armor to get through. It's a one-way trip, Captain, Carter said quietly. The shields will close behind you. I know, sir, Ryan replied. I've got a good crew. We've talked about it. We know what needs to be done. Carter closed his eyes for a moment. This was the price of victory. Lives spent so others could live. Approved. Godspeed, Captain. Ryan's ship broke formation and accelerated toward the Nexus. Enemy fire converged on him, but escort ships threw themselves into the path, sacrificing themselves to give him a chance. Human and alien ships alike died to clear his path. The shields parted for just a moment as a Council cruiser rammed one of the generators. Ryan's ship shot through the gap. The shields closed behind him, trapping him inside. I'm in, Ryan transmitted, beginning final approach to the core. His ship was damaged, systems failing, but he kept it flying through sheer will. Enemy fire tore at his hull. His crew worked desperately to keep shields up, engines running just a little longer. Core target acquired, Ryan reported. Arming warhead. This is for Earth.